Welcome to another episode of the Jampack Report today for November the 20th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry. Hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week, it is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know. So if you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But for fans of 007, we got some fantastic news yesterday. Hitman developer IO Interactive is making a new James Bond game. Yesterday's very short teaser simply shows the franchise's iconic gun barrel intro and a codename, Project 007. A follow-up tweet from the official James Bond account reveals this will be a new Bond and an origin story for the agent. The license to make a James Bond video game has been left in the wilderness for years and has had decidedly mixed fortunes during its various periods of ownership. There have been genre-defining James Bond games such as Rare's classic GoldenEye 007, decent attempts such as Eurocom's Nightfire, and absolute nonsense such as EA's own attempt at a game named GoldenEye in 2004. IO's project marks the first big new Bond game since Activision's widely panned 007 Legends, which Eurogamer gave a 3 out of 10 review score back in 2012 too. Quote, "It is true that once in a while the stars do align in our industry," IO studio boss Hakana Brock said today. Creating an original Bond game is a monumental undertaking, and I truly believe that IO Interactive, working closely with our creative partners at EON and MGM, can deliver something extremely special for our players and communities. Our passionate team is excited to unleash their creativity into the iconic James Bond universe and craft the most ambitious game in the history of our studio, end quote. The developer is also currently working on Hitman 3, which is due out in January 2021 as a cross-gen title for PC, Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. New locations for your bald assassin anti-hero will include Dubai and Dartmoor. There's also PSVR support, though you will need the PS4 version of the game even when playing on PS5 if you did want that version of the game. This is a phenomenal match made in heaven. Truly, I could not imagine a better studio to make a James Bond game than the studio behind the incredible new generation of Hitman franchise titles, because they are fantastic and they align perfectly with what I would want a James Bond game to feel like. And I think that really is what we need to drive home here, is that I'm not looking for a James Bond skin for the next Hitman. I think they can make a legitimately incredible foundational experience for James Bond to kind of build on in the video game universe. In the same way that you see the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DC Cinematic Universe separated in the world of movies, there could be an entire new line of James Bond games that build an original story, and that sounds like something that I would absolutely want to take part in. I think the most interesting piece of this for me is the fact that it is going to be an origin story. You get to find out how Bond gets into his organization. That sounds like an incredibly interesting story that has not been told before. I would absolutely be ready for that. But of course, this project is still in the very preliminary early stages, if I did have to guess, because again, Hitman 3 is just wrapping up development, so this feels like a 2023-2024 release at the earliest in my mind. But it could be sooner, depending on how long this has actually been in the works. However, I would not hold your breath for a release in the next year or two minimally. But certainly exciting news for the team over at IO Interactive. Some fantastic people over there. Now moving on, PlayStation's boss does not know if Starfield and The Elder Scrolls 6 are coming to PS5. Questions still remain about the fallout of Microsoft snapping up Bethesda. The head of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Jim Ryan, has said that he looks forward to finding out if Bethesda titles like Starfield and The Elder Scrolls 6 will be released on PS5. Speaking to a Russian news agency, TASS, the exec said that the decision is out of his hands after Microsoft snapped up Bethesda parent company ZeniMax Media for a whopping $7.5 billion in September. Quote, "That's a decision that is out of our hands. We'll wait and see what happens," Ryan said. "I look forward to learning about that. We just take a different approach. Our emphasis has been to focus on really steady, slow, but constant organic growth of our studios, selectively bolstered by acquisitions. We respect the steps taken by our competition. They seem logical and sensible, but we are equally happy and confident. We have got a better launch lineup than we've ever had at any of our console launches. Microsoft has remained rather coy about whether Bethesda games will be coming to other platforms. Last month, Xbox boss Phil Spencer said that the company could recoup the $7.5 billion it paid for ZeniMax, with its titles just being released into its own ecosystem, but also said that the goal was not to take games away from other players. More recently, Microsoft CFO Tim Stewart said that Bethesda games need to be first or best on Xbox machines. In October, Bethesda's Todd Howard said it was hard to imagine titles like The Elder Scrolls VI and Starfield being console exclusives. The development vet also hinted at how much of a technical leap over its previous games Starfield represents for Bethesda. The company has seemingly overhauled its creation engine tech. So, will the games actually come across generations and across platforms? Generations, no. Platforms, potentially. Again, I don't want to put anything in stone, but the longer that this lingers in the air, the more I think that these games are going to be coming to PlayStation as well. Could they be timed exclusives? Absolutely. Is that likely? Also absolutely. A 6-month exclusivity period for The Elder Scrolls VI would not shock me in the slightest, because then that would sell consoles, but it also does not lock the game down to a specific console platform. And I think that's something that is a very touchy subject for Microsoft, because they don't want to be seen as the bad guy here. No one wants to look and say, I can't play Starfield, or I can't play The Elder Scrolls, or I can't play Fallout, or Doom, or Wolfenstein, because Microsoft has that locked down on Xbox. They still want people to be able to access their games. They've said so directly. But it's also about getting the value and the bang for their buck out of that $7.5 billion investment in ZeniMax Media. Now, of course, regardless of where the games are sold, they're still going to get a cut of it. So whether you're playing the game on PC or PlayStation or even an Xbox console, money is still coming their way. So the more games they put out into the wild, the more money they are going to be able to bring in. So why lock that down to Xbox unless your strategy is building the value of the Xbox itself? And if they were doing that, then it doesn't really make sense to release games like Halo Infinite on PC and other big first-party exclusives on PC. So I think that their approach is probably going to be a multi-platform approach. I know that a ton of people in the gaming industry are really betting on the fact that Microsoft is going to be locking down the biggest games from the ZeniMax family, but I'm very hesitant to say that because, again, kind of like what Todd Howard said, I couldn't imagine Starfield being locked to Xbox. I couldn't imagine The Elder Scrolls VI being locked to Xbox. They just feel like multi-platform games because they traditionally have. And for that to be changing would be very, very jarring. And again, I don't know if that's the kind of attention and the kind of vibe that Microsoft wants to bring to the table, unless they just want to be a huge player and really put a lot of value on that Xbox brand overnight, as if it did not already have value to begin with. But Nvidia has brought GeForce Now game streaming to iOS via Safari, and in time, yep, that will include Fortnite. Nvidia is bringing its GeForce Now game streaming service to iOS, not through the App Store though, because the company's offering does not adhere to Apple's guidelines. It's the same reason why you can't access Google Stadia through a native application, not officially anyway. Instead, Nvidia is going through Safari. Quote, it will be brought directly to the browser through a web page similar to our Chromebook client, according to Phil Eisler, general manager of GeForce Now. It's being launched today with a beta label, so don't be surprised if you experience any bugs or glitches. Most Bluetooth controllers should work, including the DualShock 4 and Xbox One generation pads. Nvidia has not tested the new DualSense or Xbox Series controllers, but is confident the latter will work, given it's only slightly different to the Xbox One gamepad. If you're pining for a Switch-style gaming setup, Nvidia has also confirmed that the Razer Kishi, which plugs directly into the iPhone's charging port, will be compatible. Oh, and don't expect to use a mouse and keyboard. Quote, at the moment, with the way WebRTC works through the browser, we are not able to make the mouse functional, so you do have to play with a gamepad, Eisler said. Some games that were specifically designed for mouse and keyboard will not be available in Safari. Otherwise, the entire GeForce Now library should be playable, including Fortnite. The game won't be available right away, Nvidia explained, because the company is working on a special touch-friendly version. While the GeForce Now library is best experienced on mobile with a gamepad, Touch is how over 100 million Fortnite gamers have built, battled, and danced their way to Victory Royale, Eisler explained in a blog post. There you go. It's a strange return for the Juggernaut Battle Royale, which was pulled from the App Store earlier this year following a very public dispute between Apple and Epic Games. Will there be repercussions for this unexpected workaround? Nvidia does not think so. Quote, they provided some advice which recommended the developers always have the option to go to the web, Eisler explained. That was their official position, and that's what we've done. We have listened to their advice and not gone through the App Store and go to a web method instead. The iOS expansion follows the service's launch on Chromebooks. Today, Nvidia revealed its plans to broaden that support officially to other hardware that can run the Chrome browser early next year. That means anyone with a PC, Mac, or Linux machine would be able to access GeForce Now without downloading a dedicated client, and Eisler believes that Nvidia's desktop app will always offer more robustness, but understands that general browser support is a good way to attract newcomers. Unlike most game streaming services, GeForce Now does not have its own library. Instead, it is a service that people use to stream the games they've already bought on Steam, the Epic Games Store, EA Desktop, formerly known as Origin, and other independent marketplaces. The company plans to add support for GOG.com, a popular PC game store, in time for Cyberpunk 2077's launch in early December. It is not clear whether that timing will change if the highly anticipated RPG is delayed yet again, though. GeForce Now can be accessed for free, but sessions are limited to an hour, and you often have to wait for a remote machine to become available. Alternatively, you can pay $4.99 per month for a Founders membership that ups the session limit to 6 hours and gives you priority access and turns on Nvidia's RTX ray tracing acceleration. It's a different pricing model to other mainstream game streaming services, which currently include Stadia from Google, xCloud from Microsoft, Facebook Gaming, and Luna, of course, from Amazon. So, this is an exciting piece of news because we are finally beginning to see the fruits of the labors of developers behind the scenes, and the first to this scene are the people at Nvidia. Of course, this is a big deal, number one, because it does basically afford you the ability to play your entire PC game library, at least for the most part, on your mobile device through a browser. That's cool. On top of that, Fortnite is now going to be back on iOS, sort of, in a roundabout way. Ultimately, it comes down to the fact that this is kind of a slap in the face to Apple, but one that they kind of asked for, because now they have everything designed specifically to their definitive schematics of how they want games to be played on iOS devices. So they kind of just have to accept it, really. Additionally, I will say this paves the way for other services to come as well. Google Stadia, of course, already uses this solution, but if you look forward to Amazon Luna, if you look forward to xCloud, which is coming from Microsoft, these are the experiences you are going to be having on iOS devices, at least until Apple kind of lessens their strict policy, which they very well should do. But regardless, if you do want to play your PC library on your iOS device, it looks like that is coming to your device soon. And finally, of course, in a world of DMCA takedowns on Twitch, Cyberpunk 2077 has revealed a streamer-friendly option that won't get you DMCA takedowns. Congratulations for those out there that are content creators. CD Projekt Red is trying to make it as easy as possible for streamers to play Cyberpunk 2077 without issue. The game will ship with an option that allows you to disable copyrighted music in order to avoid having DMCA strikes placed on your channel. The feature won't merely mute the music during these selections of the game, instead, it will replace them with music that won't cause issues during streams. There are more than 150 custom songs on the radio of Night City as well, so you'll have no shortage of tracks to listen to. Cyberpunk 2077's soundtrack features songs from high-profile artists such as Grimes, Radboy, and Run the Jewels, and veteran Nine Inch Nails and Angels and Airwaves drummer Ilan Rubin, who was also involved. Keanu Reeves' character, Johnny Silverhand, fronts the fictional band Samurai, which is actually legendary Swedish punk outfit Refused. The group recorded the Chippin' In song heard when Reeves was first introduced at E3 2019. Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed multiple times, first planned for release in April before being bumped to September, November, and finally December 10th. It will be available on Xbox One, PS4, PC, and Stadia, with Xbox Series X and S and PS5 versions eventually coming as free upgrades. Of course, you can check out the Cyberpunk 2077 pre-order guide from the team at GameSpot if you want more information, but this is a very fantastic feature, especially with what's going on right now on Twitch. And for those that don't know what's happening on Twitch, essentially after years and years of turning a blind eye to streamers literally using Spotify to stream their music, they just kind of all of a sudden started enforcing rules, which created a huge headache in the creation community, and now some new solutions are beginning to emerge that allow people to kind of start fresh, and they are now using non-copyrighted music. But of course, games are still a problem. So in NBA, for instance, if you have a track that is licensed, you can't play that on stream. You have to mute that. In Call of Duty, if you're playing Black Ops Cold War and a band comes on from the 80s, then all of a sudden, yep, DMCA Takedown. It's a huge pain. And so to hear that the team behind Cyberpunk 2077 has allowed this to not be a problem from the get-go is something that I think warrants some appreciation. So thank you to the team at CD Projekt Red for making that happen. Now, in regards to the game itself, number one, I do want to say, I think it's still coming out on December the 10th. It feels like this is a solid date, and we're getting closer and closer to that release date, so it feels like something that is going to happen. However, I do want to encourage you to temper your expectations, because this is an RPG through and through. The early impressions have shown that. The people that have gotten their hands on it for over 16 hours have said this is a very, very in-depth RPG, and a lot of people will want that. A lot of people are excited about that. We saw some in-depth gameplay yesterday that showed off a lot of what the game has to offer, and I don't want to spoil anything, so we won't get into that. Of course, I haven't watched it because I don't want to for myself. I want to go in blind. But people are expecting this to be GTA in the future, and that's not what this game is. It's not going to play like GTA, it's not going to be as zany as GTA, it is going to be an RPG. And a lot of people have said it might be overrated. That's still up for debate. That does not mean it's going to be bad, but I just want you to go in with an open mind, is what I'm trying to say. Still going to be a phenomenal game, of course, one that has had a lot of ups and downs during its development, but it's one that I am looking forward to. I'm trying to decide if I want to dive in on December the 10th, or if I want to wait until the next gen upgrade comes out next year. Either way, the box will be in my hands, so we'll see how it goes. I really don't want to invest, hundreds of hours into it, and then all of a sudden the new upgraded version comes out with ray tracing on Series X, and I'm kind of like, well, here we are. But I digress, still looking forward to it either way. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed today's show, drop me a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the show, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But I want to hear, what do you think about Hitman developer IO Interactive actually getting the license to James Bond? Would love to see what you have to say about that one. But until Monday, you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.